Hey, so losing friends is hard, you know, either through physical death or death of relationship, you know. Um, but looking back on, the younger me, I was scared. I ran. I mean, I ran away from home a few times. I ran, and I kept going, and eventually I could no longer see where I began. It's like things all around me were going crazy and getting worse, and I was getting crazier, and being, worse of a problem. I couldn't figure out what was going wrong, so I just ran. Like, I ran away from home, ran towards drugs, ran away from everything that I had, thought up until that point, ran towards the unknown. But at the end of my running, the only problem I could find any longer was myself. I made almost all the wrong choices in situations that I was in then. Even if I was trying to make the, best wrong choice, trying to like do the least harm, I was still, making choices that the people who loved me could not stand around and watch. I was making choices that directly hurt the ones I loved the most. I guess in retrospect, I just needed to be alone long enough, to be sober long enough to be able to figure out what was wrong. But by the time I figured it out, I was alone, like fully alone. And I earned that with my behavior. I earned that by taking my issues out on the wrong people, the bleeding all over others that I've talked about. I made the people in my life walk away, even though I didn't realize the magnitude of the shittiness that I was, perpetuating, the impact that I was having on others. People that I came into contact with, an awful lot. Now listen to me, I was working with special needs people through this time, and I was not shitty there, but it was just it was all in the pursuit of drugs at that time, and so I was not a shitty person to the people there. It was I just need to clarify that, because I have talked about this timeline previously, but it was definitely work Eric, and then outside of work Eric. But even though I didn't fully understand how bad things were getting, and I guess there's a justification math that one does in their head, and it's just it was still shitty behavior. I was still being just a shitty person, and coming to the realization that I was becoming a shitty person was just part of what was able to set me free from the confusion of why doesn't anyone talk to me anymore. I wanted to be better for myself. I wanted, and I wanted to be a better friend to my friends, that I would make going forward. And, I wish I was a better friend to the people that I, just I really fucked up and made some really, shitty choices, about just, getting too fucked up. And I only know about some stuff. It was very inebriated for other things, and I'm sure that there's situations where I've said things or whatever where I don't recall, and I don't know. It's possible. But, when I wanted to be a better man for the people that I loved and the people that I would love going forward. And I can still do that. But I am, at this point, I'm the only factor in my life from, the past that I'll be better for, and I'll never regain those friends, and I'll never be able to redo, any situation from the past. I won't be able to go back and be, a more present boyfriend. I can't do that. And, I can only be a better person for me, and to know that, just because I've done that shit, I don't need to ever make those kinds of choices again. And having been sober for off of drugs since 2014, and it's tough, because like, I used to feel really sorry for myself about losing, friends and losing this relationship or that job or whatever, thinking like, oh, how could they do this to me? Oh, I don't understand why, like, people don't want to be around me when I'm just running amok. Like, I wouldn't want to be around that me, I mean, if we're being for real. But it's like, my actions were the reasons why this, that, or the other. And, there are many situations, with workplace things that, like, went in one way. Anyway, but, like, people were often really bummed out. Like, oh, we didn't realize, like, oh, we thought you were over the drug problem or whatever. And, like, how could they do this? I mean, it's they needed to protect themselves. They didn't walk away from me because just because they couldn't see how good of a person I was. Like, I think that the problem was that they knew that they knew that I was a good person, but that I wasn't acting that way, and I wasn't acting in a way that, that was acceptable, and this or that relationship didn't fail because, I was doing the right thing. Like, they failed because I was using drugs and lying about it or whatever, and, I didn't get fired from this job or that job because they couldn't see how great an employee I was. They didn't want to fire me because of how good of an employee I was, but there was times where, like, just people's hands were tied. It was like, listen, when we give up on ourselves and show no sign of change coming, then people may then also give up on us. It's a terrible pain. Like, it sucks. Like, it sucks, it's a really bad pain. It is something that I think about every day, and, or, 5 days out of a week. Can't seem to, like, shake that. But, I've come to a place where, it's just sort of like, okay, that's there. It is what it is. Just don't do this, that, or the other again, But what I've come to understand about the pain is that, like, it's not an easy choice for people to make, I'm sure, well, depending on the situation. I think, depending on, like, how belligerent I was or whatever, and I was not being someone that was a good friend. I was not, like, I just wasn't present for a lot, and I thought I was, and I just couldn't understand why people couldn't adapt, and it's just, but, like, by figuring out what my problems were, I was able to then fully realize that I was the problem. I missed, or, maybe rejected, many different attempts over the years by others to help me find myself. But, like I've said, they didn't exactly walk away. Some of them did, but, I mean, there are people who were, like, the last remaining friends, and, they didn't walk away so much as, like, we just stopped moving in the same direction. They were making progress in life, and I wasn't. Things would just they were making positive progress in life. I was progressively getting worse, and for that, I need to hold myself accountable, and, again, deal with those consequences of the choices that I made. But it's just, it's using that the pain of the loss of that friendship, or, you know what I mean, or, those relationships, we can take that pain and, like, utilize it as motivations that we don't do these things again. And if these problems come up for us, we gotta just, like, get up and handle our shit. You know what I mean? Like, hurt people. That's the title of this segment. Hurt people. But, and what? So what are you going to do about it? Like, you can't just, it is unacceptable for what I was doing. I would disagree with, and I would not, like, condone or suggest anybody does that. Any of the things that I talk about here, like, I'm not bragging. Like, I'm not. I'm literally, I understand that, like, I became a street person like that. So I'm not like, there's, but I do need to point out that, like, while yes, people who are hurt are going to potentially hurt other people, but that can't be used as like an excuse. Oh, I'm hurt, so therefore whatever I'm doing to others doesn't matter because I'm hurt. And it's like, we need to talk about these things. Like, normalize talking to your friends about, hey, this, that, or the other is happening at home. If it's, somebody that's on the younger side of things, I'd really recommend that, like, if you feel like things at home are not right, then definitely talk to a guidance counselor or whatever, because a lot of times things that we think are not right. And so if you're on that side of the viewership here, like, talk to an adult, but also understand that, like, at any age we can try to make sure that we handle our shit and address the problem and not just like treat the symptoms. And that's what I was doing with drugs and alcohol. I was treating the symptoms, but like addressing the problem is what has truly made my life better, has made me a better person, has made me more, I don't know, enjoyable to be around, because like I don't feel like I need to be drunk or on drugs to be around people. And it is tough work. It is hard work. It is really, you are going to like front load the pain by addressing our issues. You condense that timeline. And once you sort of process all of whatever has happened, like, sure, it's going to suck for a little while now, but I mean, wouldn't you rather have like more of your life not feeling angry all the time, not like just running amok because you're unwilling to like get up and handle your shit? Hurt people. Okay, but now what are we going to do to stop the cycle of pain? Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Catch you next time, guys.